Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today I'm going to make a video and show a couple of new Dalula Company colors. I'm going to start with Berry Blush, and then a little bit further down in the video I'm going to do Blushed Fawn. I'm going to do an incline twist for this shirt. So to do this shirt, I have placed it flat on my table, and I'm going to grab the side of the shirt just a little bit below the armpit of the shirt, pinch that area, and then just begin to twist. To make it a little easier, I'm lifting the shirt up off of the table. Once I have the shirt twisted, I'm going to place it down inside of a piece of vinyl guttering. Then I'm going to take a piece of kite string and tie it to the end of this design, and then clip the piece of kite string to the end of the vinyl guttering. That will help to keep the shirt from sliding all the way out of the guttering when I incline it. Now I'm going to apply a layer of ice to the top of the shirt, and I'm going to use as much ice as possible. As I'm adding the ice to the shirt, you'll see me periodically kind of push it down. I'm trying to really pack the ice on top of the shirt. I'm going to apply the dye over the top of the ice, which is also referred to as DOI, which is dye over ice. I want to see the cool color splits in this color, and so by applying the dye over the top of the ice and doing an incline twist on the shirt, that allows the dye to split out and flow down the shirt, showing off the cool color splits in this dye color. Once I have the ice on the shirt, I'm going to take and put one end of the vinyl guttering down inside of a large plastic tote. This tote is a 66 quart storage container, and it has tall sides. One end of the vinyl guttering is going to be in the bottom of the tote, and the other end is going to be hanging off the edge, which is going to place the shirt at an incline. I'm going to do just a little bit of touch-up work on the ice before I apply the dye. Like I mentioned, I'm using Berry Blush from Dalula Company, and I'm going to apply the dye over the top of the ice. Right at the very top of the incline, I'm going to add a little bit more ice and a little larger chunk of ice and apply some dye over the top of that area. Whenever you're doing these incline dyes, it's a little easy sometimes to go light on the dye at the very top of the incline. And you can sometimes end up with a white area on your shirt right there. I don't want that, so I'm going to apply just a little bit more dye to that one little area. Then I'm going to add an additional sprinkle of dry soda ash, and then place the shirt aside and allow the ice to melt. So after the layer of ice melted, I came back and I checked the shirt, and I had pretty good color saturation up at the top where I added the additional ice and dye, but I had a couple of areas kind of on the side of the piece of vinyl guttering that were pretty light. So I added a couple of ice cubes to those little areas, placed some dye over the top, and then allowed that ice to melt. Then after that ice melted, I allowed the shirt to process for about 48 hours before I began rinsing it. Okay, so before we rinse the shirt, let me show you the Blushed Fawn ice dye that I made. I did both of these shirts at the same time, so they processed at the same time, I rinsed them at the same time, all of that stuff. I'm going to do an incline twist on this shirt as well, but this time I'm going to start the twist down on one of the bottom corners. I went ahead and sped this part of the video up because I've kind of already explained the process with the other shirt. One thing though that I didn't explain with the other shirt, but I did go ahead and do, is after the ice melted the very first time on the shirt, I came back and I usually try to catch them just as soon as the ice is almost completely melted. And I check to see if there are any really dark areas of dye on the shirt. So sometimes with these designs, you can add a little bit more dye in one area, and as the ice melts, it kind of doesn't fully dissolve. The dye doesn't fully dissolve. And so if you catch it soon enough, what I usually try to do is I try to take a soda ash solution that I have in a spray bottle, and I lightly spray those darker areas of dye just to try to get that dye to go ahead and dissolve. Sometimes that can cut down on the dark areas that you see sometimes on ice dyes. And so, like I said, I did that for both of these shirts. The first Berry Blush, I didn't have quite as many dark areas. This one I had a few more. So I sprayed them really well, kind of dissolved that dye, and then I allowed both of the shirts to process for about 48 hours before I rinsed them. I rinsed the shirts the same way. I took them to my utility sink and began rinsing them in cold water to rinse out the soda ash. Then I went ahead and warmed the water up to hot, continued rinsing in hot water to try to rinse out the excess dye that didn't bond with the fabric. And instead of rinsing for a long time, I went ahead and soaked both of the shirts. And I did that by adding some really hot water to my utility sink, a little bit of Blue Dawn dish soap to the water, placing the shirts inside, and allowing them to soak. When the water cooled off, I changed it out, and I continued that soaking process until my water was remaining almost clear. Then I placed both of the shirts along with some Dharma's professional textile detergent into my washing machine, and I washed them using a hot water cycle. Okay, so I've washed, dried, and ironed both of the shirts, and let's see what they look like. Okay, so this is Berry Blush, and what do you guys think? Because I think this color is really cool. I wasn't really expecting the quantity of blue that I got in the shirt, but I think it is really pretty, and it's a pretty blue shade as well. So I looked up the color out on Dalula Company's website just to see what they say about the color, and she describes it as a delightful mix of blush pinks, mauves, and hints of grayish tan, complemented by light brown and vibrant pops of blue-green, all anchored by a bold blue. This color palette brings a playful touch to any project, infusing it with lively and refreshing tones. And I got just about all the colors she describes in this shirt. I definitely got the pinks and mauves. I got the hints of grayish tan. Definitely got lots of blue. I also got a few darker areas on this shirt, and most of those, when you look closely at them, are more of a dark purple color. So overall, I think this is a really pretty color. The blue in this is just a really pretty shade of blue. It's not quite turquoise, but I would describe it more as a very vibrant robin's egg blue. I think it pairs really well with the mauve shades and the pinks and kind of the tan tones. So overall, I really like the shirt. I think it's really pretty, but let's look at the blushed fawn color and see what you think about that one. So I really like this color too. I think it's really pretty, but what do you guys think? So I like starting the twist from the corner or the hem of the shirt too. I think that looks really pretty, how the colors streak up toward the neck of the shirt. I also really like the color splits that I got in this shirt. Let me read to you what Amanda's written out on her website about this color. She says, blushed fawn is an exciting color that features a captivating mix of hues. It beautifully combines soft blush pinks, gentle light purples, a variety of browns and tans, cheerful yellows, and occasional pops of gray. This distinctive palette brings a unique charm to your project. On this shirt, I ended up with the blush pinks and definitely some of the browns and tans. As far as the yellows go, my yellows ended up with more of a green tint to them than just a pure yellow. And I do have a few of the pops of gray. I think this is a really cool color too. I wanted to kind of do these two colors together because they both use the word blush in their name, and I thought, well, let's just kind of see a little bit about how they compare. So overall, I really like both of these colors. I think they're both really pretty colors. And if you're not familiar with Dalula Company is a small dye business which is owned by a lady named Amanda, and she mixes all of her own dyes. So she mixes them specifically for ice dyeing and specifically for color splits. So most of the dyes that she has available out on her website are really cool colors that when you use them for ice dyeing, split and you get just a variety of different shades coming out of the dye. I've left a link to her website down below this video in the description. But just be aware, since she is a small dye business, that it may take about 3 weeks to ship the dyes once you place an order because she hand mixes them all by herself. But I personally think it's worth the wait. I think she's got some really unique colors that are really pretty. So overall, I really love both of these new dye colors, but what do you guys think? Do you like them? Do you have a favorite? Have you used these on some of your projects, and how did you like them? Please drop me some comments down below and let me know. And if you've enjoyed the video, I sure would appreciate it if you would like it and if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you'll hit the bell, you'll receive a notification whenever I upload a new video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.